the very first Educator Pro Connect webinar, and in partnership with the Young Builders Council and the Arizona Department of Education. So we welcome you. Cliff and John, I want to introduce you to teachers from Snowflake, Arizona, the district there, and in Dysart, and in Chandler, and Mesa, and Peoria. And so Cliff and John, welcome. Thank you for being a partner in this, and I'll let you take it away.
All right, well, thank you very much for the introduction, Allie. This is really exciting stuff. This is sort of the backbone of why the Young Builders Council started. And you might be asking yourself, well, what in the heck is the Young Builders Council anyway? And it's a great question. So what it is, it's a group of 40 and under construction professionals who are a part, or whose parent companies are a part of the Arizona Builders Alliance. So the Arizona Builders Alliance is a group of more or less vertical contractors. So they're building buildings and subcontractors who come together and share educational opportunities and best-in-class practices and a whole bunch of leadership development with one another. They kind of all collectively drop their competitive guards to share best-in-class practices with one another in the effort of perpetuating this group and keeping it relevant and providing a good flow of new entrants who are well connected. We started the Young Builders Council about 5 years ago. And since then, one of our calls to action has been outreach, community outreach to folks and students like yourselves. So thank you so much for having us here today. We have a pretty esteemed panel of young professionals who are certainly rising to the tops and starting to get into the ranks of leadership in their companies. Here with us today, we have myself, and I'm an insurance and surety agent for contractors. So I do surety bonding and insurance for construction companies, a whole bunch of number evaluation, number crunching, and things like that. But I could get into it, but that's not why we're here today. We're here to talk about the folks who have taken advantage of their STEM education and have applied that in real world to the construction trade. So with us today, I'll go through the list and then we'll start progressing through some slides here in our slideshow. Today here we have Jeff Keenan with Climatech, Matt Kuiper with K2 Electric, Tom Plum with Soundcrete, and last but certainly not least, John Tice with the Chase Building team. First up, we're going to go through some slides, have some examples of what these folks do in their everyday life, and get a brief introduction. From there, we will go into a little question and answer session. We've got some pre-planned questions. Allie has committed to being my watcher of the chat box. So if anyone live here has questions, please feel free to type them in and we'll do our best to get to them towards the end. But without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first panelist today, Jeff Keenan. And Jeff, I will advance the slides as you instruct me to do so.
Thank you very much. Appreciate everyone having me on. As you can tell, looking at my background here, I don't have an upbringing with STEM education, so it's not something that was presented to me in high school or even through college as an opportunity. So I'm really excited to be here and present some of what we do every day. I studied political science and business at Arizona State University. After that, ended up as an intern with a general contractor. And 5 or 6 years ago, I left to work for a subcontractor, a company called Climatech. So what I do in my role is we have a pre-construction group that's responsible for design and pricing and ultimately getting contracts and work. And then we hand off those contracts to our operations group, who are really responsible for installing the systems and getting the real work done. So a little bit about Climatech. I'm not going to jump into all of these, but the one that I'm involved in here is building automation. And Cliff, if you want to hit the next slide for me. If you think about the thermostat, wherever you live, you've got a thermostat that tells the temperature to go cooler or hotter. When you get into bigger buildings, they still have thermostats, but the mechanical systems are a lot more complex than a package unit that's sitting on your roof. So what you're looking at here is a central plant. These are chillers that make cold water, and you'd also have boilers that make hot water and distribute that water throughout the building. So even though these aren't the package units that you're used to seeing on a roof, they're still the same idea, and they still need to be controlled by a thermostat. So that's what the building automation piece of what Climate Tech does, is controlling these larger mechanical systems. And if you hit the next slide for me, Cliff. If you were to rip the thermostat off the wall, you're probably going to find 5 or 6 wires that tell that unit what to do. So it's taking in information and telling the unit what to do. So this is an example of, I think I have here central plant. So instead of those 5 or 6 wires, you probably have a few hundred wires with sensors and outputs on the end of that. We've got 2 panels here that are probably 2 feet by 3 feet. So just again, the complexity of the systems that we're dealing with, you've got a lot more going on than a thermostat, but still the same basic idea. So a thermostat that might cost, $100 or a few $100 at Home Depot, this thermostat or controller is probably, $70,000 or $80,000. So that's what the building automation stuff is. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on, the favorite part of my job in school, it was a liability, not being able to focus in on one thing. I wasn't a great student, but working in pre-construction, I'm able to jump around and work on a lot of different things at once. So that liability in school is now an asset in the job that I'm in now. So that's the favorite part about what I'm doing now.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. I really appreciate it. $70,000 or $80,000 for a thermostat makes sense when you're running hundreds of thousands of dollars of heaters and chillers. So thanks for sharing that. Next up in the lineup for introductions, we have Matt Kuiper with K2 Electric. And Matt, I'll let you introduce yourself. And Jeff did a really good job of bringing it back to the 2 questions I asked you guys to address, but sort of a little bit on your career, what you do in your occupation, and your favorite part of the job. So keep that in mind as we go through these slides, but take it away, my friend.
Thanks, Cliff. So my career kind of started out from the beginning and kind of go to where I'm at today. I've been in the electrical industry for almost 18 years now. I started right out of high school, and got out of high school, started working for a family friend at the time. And if you want to go to the next slide, kind of shows my career path. I kind of went back and took a trip back down memory lane here. This is all from when I first started. The picture there is from when I joined the apprenticeship. That was my graduating class. So once I joined the industry, I quickly joined the apprenticeship program, which is a 4-year program that is a trade school for electricians. And what that was is you go to school twice a week for about 2.5 hours for 4 years. I did that at Gateway Community College. And I wasn't a big fan of school. That's one of the main reasons. Once I graduated, I wanted to kind of take a break from school, and I found quickly that once I joined this electrical trade school, how excited I became about it, because I found something I was passionate about. So it really reignited my passion for school. But I started out as an entry-level electrician, kind of moved up the ranks through there. I was running projects about 2 years into the trade. I think one of the first projects I ran was a job called a boot barn, and it was just a basic job, but it was really exciting for me to see, and that's kind of what helped me stick this out and make it a career. Really seeing something that you're part of, finished from watch it being completed from start to finish, and you have a really good sense of pride and accomplishment when you see that. There's a whole list of things I've done throughout my career, development and training. But where I'm at today is I'm currently the vice president of K2 Electric. kind of what I do now is I oversee multiple divisions. We have our service division, our lighting retrofit division, special projects, underground. I do business development and kind of just oversee the overall financial health of the company. If you want to go to the next slide, I just want to make sure you didn't miss anything. Yeah, so that was the picture of one of the boot barn. It's a picture of my wife and I a long time ago at the IEC National Convention. It was part of the trade school. You compete in a wire off, which this whole journey from coming right out of high school to now it's been a really fun journey, an exciting journey, and it's something that I never thought you'd get from a construction career, and it's been really rewarding. So hopefully I answered those questions.
Yeah.
That's the next slide of where I'm at today.
You did a great job. Thank you for sharing your story. You can tell you're passionate for the industry. Speaking of passionate for the industry, we've got another gentleman next up in the line here, Tom Plum at Soundcrete, and very exciting, and can't wait for him to share his story of his career path, how he got to where he is, and the favorite part of his job. Tom, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Cliff.
Yeah.
So I started in the construction industry on accident, started basically digging holes and setting forms for a general contractor for homes on weekends when I was in high school. And I didn't think much of the industry. I thought that it was only laborers, but that led me to want to go back to school for college. I graduated with a degree in medical imaging, but instead of following the path through radiology, I followed a path that led me back to my roots in construction. So started all the way from the field, but eventually worked my way back into the office, where I'm currently the division manager for Soundcrete Contractors here in Arizona, and we do lightweight concrete floors. And
Hey, Tom, you're coming in and out really quiet and really loud. I don't know if anyone else is experiencing that, but maybe so the microphone picks it up, talk a little louder. I don't know.
sorry, guys, is this better?
A little bit.
Okay. The favorite part of my job is the people in our industry. You get every different level, from somebody who's straight from college and a project manager and an architect, all the way to the builders who are making the foundation, the superintendents who are leading and being the generals out in the field. Really great group of people. It's been an absolute pleasure working with these types of people, and so many different varieties of opportunities, responsibilities, and career choices within one industry. And the other thing that's great about our industry is because you can drive by and you can see all the projects you've done over your career. It feels very rewarding to actually see a physical success from your work.
And so there's a picture of Tom and his background. And then next you see a little bit of the work that they do. Tom, do you want to touch on that for a minute?
Sure. So lightweight insulated concrete floors, or lightweight gypsum floors. If you've ever lived in an apartment, you have stepped on our floors and not known. We are a fire rated and a sound rated flooring system, so that if you have a tap dancing neighbor above you, you won't have to be bothered by them, and also to keep you safe from a fire below.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much. Yeah. And like I said, certainly last but not least, we've got John Tice sort of rounding it out here. So John, I'll let you take it away and you can walk me through the slides, my friend.
All right. You can go next slide.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
There we go. Hi, everyone. I'm John Tice. I work with Chase Building Team. We're a general contractor. So what we do is basically work with all the trades. We work with Matt, Tom, Jeff, and basically just manage everyone, making sure they have what they need to get the project done. Kind of go backwards. I started, I want to say, when I was a small child, when I got my first Lego set. And that was where my building experience started. And then from there, drafting class in high school, and then eventually went into college for architecture. And then from architecture, after studying drafting and design, I decided I wanted to go into the construction side. So I had a little bit of experience in the field, building masonry walls to landscaping, kind of getting a feel for construction, and eventually ended up in the technology side of things where I could still use my skills from architecture and drafting, but be more on the construction side. So I go through the drawings, review them, making sure there's no issues. I'll fly drones day to day, depending on the project. We have some pretty cool equipment that will show you exactly where a wall should go, or whatever it be. It'll make sure you're putting it exactly in the correct location. So really anything to do with technology I'm involved with. On the right, you'll see an image of a 3D model. So I work with 3D models quite a bit, and this is taking all the information of the project. You can see all the steel, all the electrical, anything that's in the building, it's in this model. So we can really analyze it before we build it. You can go to the next slide. And here's some more examples. On the bottom right, you'll see a typical mechanical plan. So this is kind of the typical way that construction is built. People view these plans and they go ahead and install off them. But what I do is I take them on the left images into the 3D portion, so you really get a better feel of everything that goes into the project all at once, and you can really analyze if there's any issues. And it gives the client a better feel for what the building is. You can fly through it, really start to see the entire project as a whole. I'll go a little into the details of the images actually. So the different colors represent different types of systems. So in the middle image, you've got a lot of purple going on. So that's all of your ductwork, where all the hot and cold air is coming through. You've got different piping or different colors for the different pipes. The kind of yellow orange or yellow color, gold color, is the steel in the building. So everything that's holding up the structure. So every color has its designation to represent what it is. Next slide. And so here's kind of a fun part of what I get to do. I can go out to all these job sites and talk with superintendents, but while I'm out there, I'll throw the drone up in the air and take these images so that the client can see what's going on, as well as just have a good tracking in the construction field.
Yeah, thanks for that, John. Way to round it out there. I'm just going to flip back to the first slide and leave it there for us all to have as we enter into this next section of really what's going to be a question and answer session moderated by yours truly. Unless anyone online or watching live has questions, happy to answer those for you too. John, since you just got done talking, we'll keep it on you, and then we'll kind of pose the question to the other contractors on the line here today. So it looks like to me, one of your jobs might be, or a role that a general contractor has, is really quarterbacking all the different construction trades, and your overall responsibility is taking a project from concept to finished product. Am I hitting that correctly? And then how would you say trades typically work together?
Yeah, there's a ton of new ways that we're trying to bring everyone together. There's different strategies. We use Lean, which really just to simplify that, we bring everyone in the same room and we get the opinions from the trades, so they're putting in their input. It's a huge piece to really work as a team rather than a general contractor just simply telling people what to do and where to go. It's more of a team effort.
Yeah, great. So,
Hey, Cliff.
Matt,
Hey,
yes,
Cliff, we've got some questions coming in from some students.
please,
Can I jump in here?
100%.
Okay, I will just go from first in. I've got 3 questions from a classroom. This is from a student named Vinny. He wants to know, what kind of machines and/or technology will people need that has not been invented or perfected yet? can we go around and maybe get a little thought about that from you all?
I've seen some really
Oh,
neat
Jeff.
stuff that's already
Jeff, you're-
invented, but go
Yeah,
ahead.
Jeff, you're muted.
Sorry about
Here we
that.
go.
I'll start off if you guys don't mind. I think it's a great question. It's also a very tough one. I'm sure there are companies working on that daily. And if I knew the answers, then I'd probably be working on that. I think, what John just walked us through with the BIM modeling and drones is a technology that's been implemented more over the last 5 or 10 years. So that's a big piece of technology that gets used every day. So I don't know the answer to what else needs to be built, but I would say that the construction process, even with all the technology that we've been through, definitely isn't perfect. It's still, there's a lot of issues on every job. So yeah, there's definitely always room for improvement, especially in our industry.
It's Tom. Vinny, if you can invent a time machine, we would all love that. So we can go and make a lot more time to build our projects.
Yeah. That's great. Some of the things we've seen demonstrated even to our group are things like a lens that you wear over your face, and it's a protective shield, and they call it the HoloLens, but it actually exists already. But what you can do is walk into a spot where your building's going to be built, and it will actually integrate those plans that John was showing us, and you'll actually be able to move around and see them in real time where they're going to be going. I now have the questions up, and there are some doozies on there. So, technology is something that's always changing, always getting better, from driverless excavation equipment to drones monitoring process, to seeing plans before a building's built, where they're going to be through those lenses, things like that. It's constantly evolving. Let's see here. Jacob from Mr. Max class asks, how many machines do you guys work on per day? If anyone has a good example of that, or John, maybe if you want to talk about some of maybe your, I think of machines, I think of civil construction. So if you guys want to elaborate on that.
Tom, maybe you got a good answer to that?
Yeah, on a concrete crew, you have several machines in daily use. We have a forklift, a bobcat, semi-truck and trailer, pump truck, a batch mixing stator pump, Howler pump, because we mix our own materials on site to create the cement that we're pumping inside the. And that's just a normal everyday crew. We have several of those that go every day. Also, there are big ready mix companies that provide the cement that you see driving big trucks, and we use specialized pumps to pump that cement into the buildings as well. And I'm a small concrete company. The big concrete companies will end up going through 20 trucks, to 100 trucks a day, using huge boom pumps and other much larger equipment.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Mr. Kuiper, it seems you have someone who is impressed with your progress. Would you mind sharing a little bit on your story about how you went from journeyman to vice president in just 10 years?
Yeah, it's been a total of 18 years since I've been in the trade. I started as an entry-level technician, but you're right, I have progressed quickly. I think really the answer to that is, I drive and passion for what I do. And then I kind of figured out what I needed to do along the way. I was always open to figuring out what I needed to learn, what job skills were required for the position I was at the current time and place in my career, being open to criticism and being always open to learn new things. But yeah, what I can really say contributed to that the most is just a passion, drive, and determination. And I really feel, because going through school, I think like Jeff said, I wasn't always the best student, and I felt that I was a little concerned when I graduated high school that I wasn't sure what I was going to do with my career, and it's been encouraging to me that going as I progressed in my career, I still found ways to excel and exceed. Like I said, going through the trade school, that was a big part of how I excelled in my career as well. So those are just a few ways that I did that.
Thank you so much. Great answers to those questions. So we've got some questions coming in. I'm gonna kind of lump some of them together and pose them to whoever would like to answer. But we've got a second grade class watching today, and they asked, what apprenticeships are available and what type of requirements are needed for an apprenticeship? So for the folks on the line who have been through apprenticeships or know about what is required to be considered for one, what are they looking for? High school educations, GEDs, equivalents, or additional education? Anyone willing to jump in on that one?
Yeah, real quick on that. With the electrical trade school, really it's a GED or equivalent, and there's not a lot required. You probably have to take a basic math test to evaluate where you're at. But other than that, if you are interested in the trade, the electrical trade, the only requirement is really a GED.
So you're telling me you can have a super rewarding, fun career and you don't have to have a whole bunch of college debt?
Exactly.
Yeah, that sounds great. All right, and Tom, I'm going to steer a question or two back at you. So we've got some people very interested in concrete, and they are interested in, one, how in the world is concrete made in the first place? And then two, I've seen concrete, it's liquid. How in the heck do you make a floor out of it?
Okay, great questions. Concrete is one of the oldest building technologies that we have. In fact, you look back into the Roman Empire, still see amazing concrete structures that are standing today. So it's a really amazing product. We take cement and we take aggregate. Aggregate is any type of rock. For my materials, very small, thin slabs, I use sand as my aggregate. It's very fine. But we take the cement and we take the sand and we mix it together with water, which will activate and cause a chemical reaction between the cement and the aggregate. And then we have just a small amount of time to be able to pour that out in a liquid state. Kind of looks like pancake batter. And then once it reaches its final destination, you have to smooth it out, level it out, flatten it out, create a surface if you need to do like a light broom or something like that. And then you allow it to dry. Some chemicals are sometimes sprayed on top to help fast or slow the drying time. But most of the time you just let it alone. And the next day you have a nice concrete floor. But it usually takes about 28 days total for concrete to cure. And it always holds water throughout its life.
Wow, thanks, Tom. I really appreciate it. I think it was a good topic that was brought up about, what type of education or prerequisites are required for a career in your field. I don't know if we want to kind of go through the same journey or the same process or order we did at first and talk about salary ranges for folks starting out in your career. And we'll just go, I think if we go, Jeff, Matt, Tom, and John, if you want to talk about some of the salary ranges that are realistic today so that people know what sort of careers are being afforded to them with the focus on career technical education.
Yeah, I'll start off for Climate Tech on the building automation side. It depends where you're starting. If you come in with an engineering degree, which is where a lot of our design department starts, starting salary is probably 60 or 70,000.
Wow.
If you're, maybe not coming out of college, not with an engineering background, we have plenty of people who rise through the ranks starting an install. So, working in the field, and then if they want to keep doing that, that's great. But there's also plenty of opportunity to move into things like design. The install is, you're making a little bit less money than the 60 or 70,000 because, someone had to work for that degree. But yeah, range is probably 40 to 60, 70,000. And then from there, it can go up depending on what you want to do.
That is really impressive. Mr. Kuiper, I saw that you started out making $8 an hour as an apprentice. Where does that land today?
Yeah, so that's gone up a little bit since I've first started. An entry level with no experience that just wants to first start out in the trade, you're probably anywhere from $12 to $15 an hour, which equates to 25 to 30,000 a year. But especially what's nice in the construction industry, there's potential for a lot of overtime, so that can definitely bump you up there. And then you have your different levels. You have your apprentices, you have your journeyman, and then your foreman. So when you get to the foreman level, you can be around from 54 to 75,000 a year. With overtime, you could potentially be looking at 100,000 a year in that field. Then you'll get into our project engineers, which are similar to foreman and service techs, but they're actually in the office. They kind of assist with paperwork, help our project managers with project logistics and things like that. And they're a similar range to the foreman. Our PMs and field superintendents can range anywhere from 85,000 to 120,000 a year. And then especially in that type of role, there's performance bonuses at the end of the year. Some companies do that. So depending on that, you can have guys making 130, 140,000 a year potentially.
Wow. Well, that is neat. Did you folks hear that? So, pay attention. And it sounds like if you work hard and do well, without a college education, there's some really huge salaries to be made. Tom, how about you? Rough salary range.
Well, similar to Matt, in the field, you start up somewhere between about $25,000 to $30,000 a year, just being a general laborer. But the more talent you get, running machines or having a Class A, driver's license, or being up to foreman, you get with overtime and extra hours and Saturdays and all that kind of stuff, you can get up to 100 pretty quick. The most talented at that. So it's a very wide range of salaries because the construction industry is so busy. There's so much opportunity, and skilled workers are so highly needed and such a commodity. They're prized and protected. When it comes to the office, typically, you have about 50,000 to and up, basically, based on what you're doing for our industry, kind of a takeoff engineer or engineer, work your way up to estimator, salesman, and then higher up. And then all is kind of based on your abilities at that point.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. And John, if you want to just wrap that one up, I would say quickly, just because we're kind of pushing time.
We're about the same as Tom and Matt mentioned. Start around 50, and the more you learn, the hard work you put in. It keeps rising. So
just an amazing career path. My father worked the trades for 42 years. I saw it happen, and that's why I'm an insurance guy, married to the construction industry. John, sticking with you, we got a couple of questions here. So I think it would be cool if you showed a really big picture of a project site from dirt almost to completion. How long would a project like the one you showed in the last slide take? And if you want to walk us quickly through a project like that, how long it would take?
Yeah, so it depends on the project. We build a lot of schools that can be built. We're building a school right now. It's going up in 6 months total. But then multifamily, so apartments, they tend to take a little bit longer, and you can expect maybe 12 months to 20 months putting it together, depending on how many apartment rooms you're putting into it. So it really varies, but you can expect some projects to last 2 years, depending on the size, or sometimes it can be as little as 6 months.
And then all of the trades, the Matts, the Toms, the Jeffs, they're all working together within that. So their portions might be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or they may come in at the beginning of the job, right, and then finish up at the end.
It seems like Matt might be able to speak on it, but it seems like electricians are sometimes the first ones on and the last ones off.
We are the first ones on because there's quite a bit of underground especially from a ground up building, we try and get as much infrastructure in the ground as possible. And then we are typically the last ones leaving because we're installing the light fixtures. We're making, all those decorative, pretty light fixtures that you see, those are hung at the very last tail end of the project, so there's no damage. And then you got your outlets and you're putting trim plates on and all the detail work. So yes, John's right. We're typically the last ones out off site.
Well, thank you so much. Trying to keep to our time slot here. I'm going to start to wrap it up. And if anyone has any final thoughts or wants to share, please don't hesitate to interrupt me. But I just wanted to thank everyone for joining us today. I think we've heard some really good examples of some very exciting career paths. I think that the pay scales you guys are talking about are just amazing. And you can do a lot of that without a college degree. So you're not saddling yourself with a bunch of college debt, and you're going to get a head start on living your adult life with the equivalent of a high school education. It's just super impressive. I appreciate the hard work you do, the leadership you all have provided in the industry. I hope I got to most of the questions. Looks like I left one out, and is how do they flatten the wood so well? And the answer to that one, maybe they use really good wood and they lay flat concrete or a flat site to put it on. If anyone else has anything,
Cliff,
or if one of you guys want to wrap it up.
It's Sally. Hey, Cliff, the good thing about this is this doesn't have to end. Almost all of these teachers are registered with the Educator Pro Connect, and all of your professionals are registered with Educator Pro Connect. So for our teachers, if you haven't done so already, we'll be reaching out to you soon to check in and get you registered for our Educator Pro Connect. And if you want to continue the conversation with any of these professionals, all of them, or just if your students have some questions for some specific professionals, you can schedule your own event within Educator Pro Connect and reach out to them, and they will virtually beam into your room and carry on the conversation. So this has been great.
We appreciate everyone for being here.